We are at Fort Pickens, Pensacola, Florida, and we're going to dedicate this video to Cub Scout Pack 129 from Greentown, Pennsylvania, and BSA Pack 158. Thanks to Travis, Tristan, Chase, and Logan. Guess what, guys?
The balloon is here.
Here's the balloon. We drug it all the way from Pennsylvania to Florida. Here it is, right here in Fort Pickens. And this is a Civil War fort, so check this video out, guys. You're going to love it. And we're going to show you some Blue Angels at the end of this video. Oh yeah, they practice at Pensacola Naval Base, right across the bay, and we watched them right here from the fort. Check it out.
Gulf Islands National Seashore. We have arrived.
The campground and the fort are both located on the Gulf Island National Seashore on Santa Rosa Island. Every day the Blue Angels practice over the Pensacola Bay. This particular Tuesday we could hear them taking off before the practice session from the camp. Tim rode the bike down while I hiked the 2 miles down to the fort to get the best viewing spots. Battery Worth is halfway between the campground and Fort Pickens along the Florida Trail. It was built in 1899 and it was used up until 1942. The overlook from the top of Battery Worth is commanding. One begins to fully understand why this location was chosen to protect the Gulf of Mexico and the Pensacola Bay. Battery Worth is halfway between the campground and Fort Pickens. From Battery Worth, it's just under a mile walk to Fort Pickens, where the Florida Trail actually begins. The Florida Trail traverses 1,300 miles through the state of Florida, from the Panhandle all the way down to the Everglades. When I finally arrived at the fort, cars were piling in to park and find their viewing spot for the Blue Angels practice. In 1972, Fort Pickens became part of the National Seashore. Fort Pickens was built between 1829 and 1834. 99 years later, in 1933, it was still defending the Pensacola Bay. Fort Pickens was closed in 1947 after World War II. Anything that was iron or metal was removed and surplused or sent to scrap yards. Only concrete was left. The brick arches are actually full circles, and the lower half is buried in the sand and acts as a foundation in the soft sand. In 1877, the Apache Chief Geronimo with some of his warriors were held at Fort Pickens. Prior to his arrival, the rest of his tribe was captured and brought there. His wife died at Fort Pickens, the only Apache to do so. 20 million bricks were used to build Fort Pickens. They were secured locally for $10 a thousand. That's over $100,000 in 1834 money. In 1899, there was a fire in the northeast corner of the fort. The fire spread across the west bank of the fort and eventually caught up with 4 tons of explosives that were stored in the northwest corner of the fort. That corner of the fort is now missing. In 1899, Battery Pensacola was built with retractable guns. It was used right up until World War II. The coastal artillery could spot and hit targets 8 miles over the horizon with 1,000-pound shells. With retractable guns that couldn't be seen from the Gulf of Mexico. Battery Pensacola was a fort within a fort. The walls are extremely thick, so 3 feet in some places. It was built with slave labor, which was concealed so that Congress could approve the payments. There was also a tremendous amount of money and materials required for the mortar to hold the bricks together. In 1861, during the Civil War, 8,000 Confederate soldiers clashed with the Federal Army that was in Fort Pickens. The Federals fought them back, losing 14 men and killing 87 Confederate soldiers. The following year, the Confederates retreated from Pensacola. While I was exploring the fort before the practice session, Tim was out on the bike checking out all of the batteries that surrounded the fort. He later viewed the Blue Angels from the beach while I stayed on top of the fort. Between 1890 and 1900, 10 batteries were built in and around Fort Pickens. They housed the latest weapons of the time and were used right up until World War II. The white and green buildings outside the fort along the beach were built in the early 1900s and housed Army troops right up until 1930.
Crowds are arriving.
What you guys do about that? The Blue Angels flying today.
Oh, I know. I know. That's what the crowd's down here for. Look at all the cars.
The Blue Angels were established in 1946 by Admiral Chester Nimitz to showcase the pride and professionalism of the U.S. Navy. The original planes were 3 F-6F Hellcats. The Pensacola Lighthouse was built in 1859 and it was Florida's first. Tim and I were set up and waiting for the Blue Angels to appear just to the right of the lighthouse. We wait and we wait. Finally, we hear in the distance the faint roar of engines as they start to take off. The Pensacola Naval Air Station is about 1.5 miles across from Fort Pickens. The Blue Angels fly FA-18E Super Hornets. The Blue Angels pilots generally take off and land in the Delta formation. jets that the Blue Angels use are standard fleet. The armament is removed and smoke cannons are installed. The smoke is a wax-based biodegradable oil. The purpose is twofold. It's for spectators and for pilots making paths of opposing planes much clearer. This is the Echelon formation, and again, the boss will review the formation until it is perfect. Sometimes the planes are only 18 inches apart. One of the maneuvers is called the sneak pass when they approach the center of the show area or the enemy. You don't hear them coming up, which makes them especially difficult to photograph. The lead pilot is called the boss, and he observes every formation. If he doesn't like what he sees, the formation gets repeated until it's perfect. Either the Delta formation or the Echelon formation protects the pilot in combat situations. When the Blue Angels are showcasing their skills, the show is based on the ceiling height, which could be low, flat, or high. This maneuver is called the Diamond Vertical Breakaway. The Blue Angels are not stunt pilots. They're simply exhibiting their skills required in real combat situations for the public to observe. All too soon, the 45-minute practice session was over, and the Blue Angels disappeared and landed behind the lighthouse. Once again, leaving the Pensacola Bay quiet and still.
Travis, Tristan, Logan, and Chase, our favorite Cub Scouts.
That's right, from Greentown, Pennsylvania, Pack 129 and BSA Troop 158, because I know some of you guys are Weeblos and you're moving on. At the end of this video, there's going to be a couple things on this Jeep that are new since you saw it at the car show. So we want you to find them and identify that and put it in the comments at the end of the video. When we see those comments, our Boy Scout promise to you, we're going to put this balloon in another video. But not until we see your comments and you pick out the 3 things that are different on this Jeep than when you saw it at the car show.